before we dive in, just a couple words of introduction. Myself, David, not Michelle Smith, and Ines will be hosting it today. So Ines and I are specializing in recruiting Java professionals across the UK. And with us today, we have Venkatesh Balakumar, who is founder and CTO of Amzu, and he will be talking about fueling a startup with Reactive Java today. So I'm just going to pass it on to you, Venkat, and a couple words of introduction from your side, and we can dive straight into it if that's okay.
All right, sure. So, hi everyone. So, my name is Venkatesh Balakumar. So, I'm from actually Milton Keynes here in the UK. Uh, Basically, I was I'm in the industry for past 23 years or something. So I've been working with Java for quite a long time, probably from version 2, I believe. And the last about like 10 years, I went into a different kind of role, heading different organizations, including AIG in the New York and many banks actually in the UK, consulting them on digital transformation. And then when just before the lockdown actually started, I had this idea, and then I started to um, invest my time and effort on that.
Porque o
uh,
adesivo é
and
legal, né,
realized
mãe? E a parede é branca, então.
I think you may need to unmute yourself. I think we've muted everyone. Sorry.
And then realized the lockdown actually started happening, and then everything turned upside down during that time. So it was a bit challenging, but actually, yes, kind of we sailed through during that time. And of course, we had couple of engagement with our customers. So basically, let me just quickly open up my presentation. Okay, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to actually share that in Zoom. Share screen. Okay, can you see the screen now? Right.
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So basically, like, why I wanted to call this as fueling startup with Reactive Java was we started our project or our product with the help of Google Cloud, because I was in touch with them for a few years, and then they actually introduced few machine learning and AI APIs which they wanted to people to utilize. And then I went ahead and then spoke with them, and then told them about the idea, and then they were happy for me to actually use that. And then so we started using it. And then uh, once I started to bring in my team, um, they're all mostly React.js front-end developers, and with some Node experience in the backend and Java experience in the backend. But as and when we started to gather the requirements, we realized normal multi-threaded blocking approach for doing um, any data queries from the client side is not actually going to help, because there are a lot of dashboards actually we are building which required up-to-date or near real-time kind of data to be fetched from this server side through the APIs. I'll go through the architectures soon. So let me just quickly go through the table of content. So here's it actually. So I'm going to go through a quick introduction about our initiatives, what we are actually doing in Amzu. And I have then we'll actually go through the Reactive Java and our experience with that. So I was supposed to actually do a demo here, but unfortunately my Mac has limited capability when I start using Zoom. So I have to actually shut down everything else to do this. So apologies for that. So let me just try to quickly go through that. So what we actually do, we are Google Cloud partners as well as partners with AWS. We provide a lot of cloud migration, AI, machine learning kind of um, development, a lot of work on DevOps, which is kind of our primary USP, and strategy also. And we do provide a limited amount of development specifically for our own purpose, and also work a lot on the big data based strategies with various clients. So we started Amzu probably like in 2013 actually, and consulted many government agencies, and then we went into banking and financial services industry, and became Google Cloud partners after that in the mid of last year during the lockdown. And we also started a consulting arm called C5 or S5. And then we partnered with an offshore development team, and then we started to grow our team like that. And then currently in a phase where we are in the process of releasing our first product as well as our first startup project, which is an job board based out of AI and machine learning. So I'll take you through that after actually going through this. So uh, I'm sure like many of you know about reactive Java, but I still want to actually go through that. So what we do here actually, so in a traditional way, we try to consume a microservices developed in Java. So we create microservice in Spring Boot and then deploy it in a Tomcat container, and then you know um, um, deploy it in on a server or Kubernetes, and then try to actually um, call the REST and API endpoints. So every time you go and actually do the calls, actually what happens is, you create one thread, servlet thread, and then it goes, wait for the process to complete, and then the response comes back, and then the thread actually goes to reuse. So we have all gone through this process. We all know that Tomcat actually chokes at a maximum of 200 threads. So we after seeing this in my past experience with many banking clients where we were processing like millions of transactions a day, decided to use or switch to a more reactive way of uh, providing services. So what reactive does is like you have a single thread actually, and then its thread goes and then asks for something, and then it says like, okay, go and do that process, and then call me after you finish the process, and then I'll go and do other processes. So you're still on the thing single thread. So we create events on that single thread, and then it will come back to that process once that event is received, and then it gets back a response to the requesting thread. So you just use just one thread, everything happens within that, and you also have the ability to keep end to end everything alive. So considering this as a plumbing kind of a thing where have a pipe at one end and then go and connect it to the other end, so the water keeps on flowing without any blocks. So that's what actually the whole reactive experience I had in the past. So I wanted to utilize the same experience in the products actually we are developing. So it's not going to be like we're going to implement reactive Java in each and every layer in our application, but we actually wanted to utilize the power of reactive Java where and when actually needed. So especially in our use cases. So a bit of an introduction or the beginning of where reactive programming actually started. So most of you may know this actually, but still I wanted to go through this. So the beginning is actually in Microsoft, which we people in Java consider them as kind of, probably either a Jedi or, or the darker side. So I don't know which side we actually consider people in .NET. So Microsoft introduced that in .NET, and then it got actually into other programming languages like JavaScript and Java. So it's basically a combination of observer pattern, iterator pattern, and functional programming together. So the main thing which I was talking about is non-blocking, and the number of threads that's been used is really low compared to the traditional blocking model. So basically, like you get like one thread and you can actually assign it to one CPU, and there are multiple events that comes out of. That's what like frameworks like Reactor does, actually manage those events being sent between different requests or processes. So it acts as a stream, and more importantly back pressure. So the thing is like I don't want my users who are using the dashboard to not go on clicking the refresh button and then asking for what's happening at that second. So that back pressure actually helps us to limit the amount of data that can be um, processed by the server, and then say like, look, stop, let me actually stop doing that for you, and then wait for some time. I can come back after some times. So these reactive programming has certain principles, so it's like responsive, resiliency, elasticity, and they're all message driven because you're passing events around everywhere. So our requirements, so why we actually went and chose reactive Java. So among the traditional frameworks, so we have a really big data visualization part being built for our job board. It's like somebody searches for a job, it fires events left and right, actually from the moment actually they enter the search term to each and every page, what they're doing, where they are actually going. So that actually helps our uh, APIs, which are on the backend AI and machine learning based services, to understand what people are searching for, where they are searching from, what they are actually searching for, and what time it is busy, so we can actually keep our services ready to be utilized, and also provide that insight of data to the users. So that's a main part of our project, is the data visualization, which we want kind of a streaming data to be available to the client side. Next one is scalability is more important, actually. We didn't want to stop the product at one location in the UK. Actually, we wanted to have it to be deployed in other locations also. Portability is, of course, inbuilt into our product, as well as we want it to be scalable to any size and any market. And of course, back pressure is more important concept, which we actually wanted to utilize. So these are the actually requirements that made us to decide and use a streaming framework. Basically, like my experience on that was with Java, so we went ahead with Java. So as a quick um, example of reactive Java or project Reactor, how actually it uses. So basically you can see over here that many of you know about future compatible completable future in Java. So usually, like this is more like a completable feature which has two scenarios. One is like Flux is where it returns multiple responses. It's almost like a list. And next one is I think I don't have this there. Okay, next one is mono, which is like we just responds back a single value actually. So no, you see like this marble diagram. Now it's called a marble diagram because it has like all those marbles over there. So these marbles are the items that are emitted by the flex. So you can keep it as a data that's emitted by the flex. So you operate on them, and then you take output from it, combine them together, slice and dice you whatever you want. If you have already done work on MapReduce and Hadoop and Java Stream, it's almost similar to that, but this has more broader scope compared to what Java Stream does. Is like Stream works on the collections, so this has more broader scope compared to um, what Java Streams actually does. Excuse my voice. Actually, I've been doing quite a lot of Zoom calls in the last 2 days. My voice is completely gone. Okay, so you see that line on the end, actually on the top set of marbles. Actually, that means like the flux is completed successfully, and the X on the bottom, it shows like there's some problem or issue in the flux, and then you can actually take action based on that. So what you can do is you can say like, no, on certain errors, actually do this action. On certain errors, don't take any actions. So there's quite a lot of actually operations available. There are numerous operations available which you can actually use it on your reactive stream. So it's almost like you have a pipe of water actually going from place A to place B. You can actually put in kind of a tap in the middle, and then tap it out, and then try to find out something is wrong or right with the water, and then do anything with that, and then divert it and go around, add a color to that, something like similar to what that analogy is. That's what actually this reactive programming is. So the advantage we had was the ability to provide near real time a dashboard, or create a near real time dashboard to our product. So that's the stack which we use. The backend is like Java 8, Spring Boot 2.4.x, Spring Cloud, Reactor, Node.js for some. Docker is everything, and then it runs everything runs on Google Cloud Run, because some of the proprietary AI and machine learning APIs we are using, actually they are from Google Cloud, so we are confined to that. Apart from that, the entire um, product or project, or what we are working on, the startup is completely portable to any other cloud providers. Front end is React.js, WebSockets for dashboards. So WebSockets is something that keeps the pipe open for the data and then keeps everything ready. Tailwind for styling, Material UI, Bootstrap, and a lot of them. Actually, we are also working on an mobile app based out of Flutter for the candidates. Okay, there you go. That's the next slide on the mono. So mono is actually emitting a single piece of data on which we can operate on that single piece of data. So that's the example architecture. In fact, it's actually our product architecture. So I removed many sensitive contents out of it. So just to find out, on the right hand side, you can see like we have users actually trying to do their stuff, like the front end UI is where candidates come and search their jobs and then apply for the job. Backend UI is where agencies and other organizations come in and then publish their jobs, and then it goes through API endpoints, and then goes into the middleware, which is the web services middleware, which is for different colors actually shown over there, job site -API, and it does talk to so many different services. So this is where the reactive experience is required for the backend UI side, just like the mostly on the dashboard side of it. What we were able to do is we were able to let the API go and actually fetch data from the database, and then go and talk to AI machine learning service API, and then we also need to go and actually work on the CVs that's been downloaded or sent by the candidates on our storage, cloud storage. And we also actually parallelly work on sending emails, so nothing is actually blocked. We also actually do calls to Stripe, which is a third party for providing payments. So by the agencies or our customers. And you can see like so many things are happening in the single piece of middleware, and then we were able to utilize the power of reactive programming over there, and then try to actually provide a seamless experience for our customers. Just go to the next one. So where we are now. So kind of learnings actually which we received from this. So quite a lot of learning curve, because my team was completely Java, Node.js, and Java based people. So we have to actually, I have to subscribe them to what do you call? Is it Udemy? Yeah, it's Udemy actually, and then ask them to learn this, and then new stack is one of the another challenge actually, because WebSockets weren't used. Um, we weren't using WebSockets before. Webflux is the reactive backend, which is another piece of it. It also required, special drivers for connecting to the backend databases to keep the connection alive, and then keep the reactive connections alive actually. And we need to be really careful actually using reactive everywhere, because every minute or every second you use in cloud, it does count as a cost for you. So you have to be really careful what you're actually doing with React. We did had a really tough learning session on that side. Actually, we spent quite a lot of money, and then we realized like we have to be careful in splitting it out, like what is required into reactive and what is required into non-reactive side, and then use different ways of managing that on the server side. Few other issues we faced is like, because it's a flow based on events, not based on threads. um, it's a bit hard to debug actually. If you see the debugging, if you have any issues and then start to debug it, actually it'll be a nightmare actually. And or similar with the unit testing, we have to learn everything from the basic, how to do unit testing with the events. Of course, Reactor has really good documentation and base of unit testing, but it did limit the team from doing unit testing compared to what they actually do with usual imperative programming languages. um, I think that's the quick graph. Most of the stuff which I'm actually showing here, um, I wanted to say like, you can, I've given the URLs here. Probably I'll share that with David after this. You'll be able to see a lot of information in those websites. So just to give some examples over there, you can play around a lot with reactive programming. I've given some references down here, which provides like visualization of how reactive actually works. So we can play around with that online. And also, like, if you need more information, I've given references to all the websites where which actually helped me in decision making throughout this process over here. So we'll be able to actually know what is actually reactive programming is and how much um, effective it is compared to other services. So just to give small example over there, which you can get it from the Medium article down there on the far right of it. I'm sorry, I'm a bit, I'm not good with colors. If you see like of the 6 lines on the far right of it, you can see like the Webflux or the reactive um, Java has better performance in CPU utilization compared to normal blocking servlet requests. Um, so this is one example of it, that Medium article which I've given there has quite a lot of in detailed comparison of blocking as well as Webflux based um, services. So that's the thing I have. As I said, like I couldn't do the code demo. My laptop is getting really slow when I started Zoom. So any questions or anything else, if you want to go ahead, please do ask.
Hi there. Peter actually had a question on the chat. What Udemy courses did you use?
There's very limited number of Udemy courses. Probably I can send that to you later on. There's 1 or 2 courses over there actually on Reactive Java. But one thing I found out is there are quite a lot of YouTube videos which are really, really, really good in explaining this and then providing a hands-on. There's actually a 2-hour video of this, which was done in 2018 by Spring. I think one of the conferences of Spring. So you'll be able to actually get that in YouTube. It's very hands-on video where you can actually get a lot of information out of it. So Udemy, yes, of course, I'll let you know what actually my team found out, and then because all I did was like subscribe to that and then let them actually enjoy what they want to do. So
Kieran's asked, is the process end-to-end reactive? I can see you're using Webflux. Are you also using R2DBC for database connections?
yeah, that's right. Actually, we have an MongoDB Atlas in the backend, so we use that to connect to MongoDB. So Spring actually provides the drivers actually for that.
Cool, thank you. Any more questions? When not to use reactive?
When not to use reactive. So basically, as I was telling, like, reactive is kind of an live stream. So it's almost like this video conferencing which we are doing. So we are getting like live images and then it's stitched together and then made into a video in front of us. So this is where reactive is kind of a reactive example, actually a real life example of it. If you see like where you don't want to actually use it is something, I would say it's easy to say where to use it than not where not to use it. Something which you don't require near real-time kind of data to be shown to the client side or the end user, or a service that requires it. So those are the places where you don't need reactive programming. So most of the time, for example, one of the real-time example I can actually give you is When it comes to fraud detection in banking, there was a massive program which I did for one of the banks back in 2019, where we have to actually be on the data that we receive from customers each and every second, and then we want to um, show that to the fraud team and people who are actually watching it 24/7 in the bank all the time. So that's where you use React. But on all the other occasions, where you don't need to um, require any kind of for example, in our case, in our product, when somebody tries to post a job, or somebody tries to send their CV to for a job, that's where you don't need them to utilize reactive. That doesn't have to be reactive actually. So all you do is like you fire a request that gets fulfilled, and then you get back a response. That's it, finish. You don't need to be reactive on that. But of course, you can use it in all the places. There's no um, limitations on where to use, where not to use. um, there was one suggestion on Joshua's video. Yes, that's the one actually. Yeah. um, by Abhilash in the chat actually. That Joshua's video is very, very useful actually if you go through that.
A few more questions have coming, I think. Are you using WebSockets for dashboard or any other purpose?
WebSocket only for the dashboard. So we don't use it for um, other requirements. So WebSocket is only for the dashboard.
Cool. Hopefully that answers your question. Reactive versus event-driven?
Reactive versus event driven. So
A lot of technical questions coming
yeah,
up tonight.
probably I'll have to bring in some of my team actually into this. Um, if you say like event driven, actually, basically event driven, I could think of it as an architecture compared to a programming paradigm. So I think both has a lot of similarities. Reactive does produces events, and then everything is runs around the concept of event driven architecture in that also. So you know I can say, like, in a react in an event driven architecture, you can have reactive frameworks, you can use them. And or all reactive frameworks event driven, I'm not sure. Probably, like, yes, I can say with my experience with um, project reactor, yes, they are event driven actually.
Cool.
Okay.
Kyriakos has one final question, I think. Have you considered using any other languages or frameworks like Go, Scala, Python?
We haven't actually. We initially thought of using Go because it's new on the market, and everybody's saying, "Oh, let's do Go." No, but I couldn't find people who are really good with that, who are able to actually work with for us. And a lot of things are not yet that mature, I would say, in Go compared to very mature languages like Java or Scala. Of course, Scala was one of these. Scala and Python are also candidates, but um, based on decisions we have taken, or based on the limited amount of knowledge which my teams are having. So we didn't want to go beyond that and then try to learn a lot of new things, and then take up a lot of time before we come in and then do something. So that's the reason we actually chose Reactive Java.
Cool, perfect. Any other questions? think that's it. There was one person who asked about vacancies on your team. Although the last time I talked about recruitment in one of these, I got shot down and everyone started leaving. So I might just send you a quick message about it individually rather than bore everyone with
Call,
old school
call
recruitment.
David, actually. David is really good. Now, of course, we'll grow soon. I'll speak with David, actually, because I'm speaking here as part of IO Associates. So I'll have to go through David for everything.
Love that.
If there is anything, I'll definitely let David know.
Perfect. If there are any more questions, then please feel free to unmute yourself. Maybe it'll be easier rather than putting it in a chat. Let's give it another minute or two just for people to ask any final questions.
One question about like how the hiring was like main factor who was driving like that you choose the Java and Spring, because like you mentioned like Golang, that this is like very difficult to find somebody who is like expert in it. It's not really like always true that it's difficult to find the people there, but like they are coming with totally different backgrounds very often, right? So I see like choosing Spring and interactive programming with Java is like as option to like attract lots of people who are already like familiar with Java, and it's much easier to hire somebody than for another communities like Python, Rails, or something like that.
You are right, actually. I'm definitely with you on that, actually. We are not actually going to shy away from new languages like Go or other languages like Python or Scala. But as you are right, actually, it's quite easy for me to get Java people, because my offshore team I have, actually they are actually all Java people. So I have to actually make them to train on JavaScript, some of them on JavaScript also later. So that's how the whole thing is. So you are right, actually. Like of course there are good people there. When time comes, time changes. I can't actually sit with one thing forever. When something definitely comes up with Go, I'll definitely be able to take it over. But of course, a couple of times we tried using Go. It was extremely fast compared to what we were actually doing with Java. So we were quite impressed with the way Go actually works. But our scenario, our organization scenario, actually is not in that situation to go for it for now.
Two more questions, I think, from the floor. How did your team react to learning Reactive? Was it a positive experience?
Not really, actually. So they reacted a lot to Reactive. So that's the reason many said like they want to keep working on what they're actually working. Some few people who said like, yeah, like, we want actually learn something new. Why don't we actually do this? So decisions are not based on me only, actually. It's based on the whole team, actually, and what they actually think is the right solution, what they're able to do, what they're capable of doing. So when we had this requirement of streaming data, actually people said like, we can't do it with plain old traditional Java web services. So then the past experience, I proposed like, why don't we do Reactive Java, and I'll give you like a daytime, go ahead and then go and find out what it is and then come back. So they came back and then said like, some of them said like, it's a bit tricky, and then it's something new way of actually doing it. So we always have a way of thinking like, how Java works, object orientation works, and suddenly like you go into a more event driven side of it. it'll be completely a different way of thinking. It's quite difficult to adjust your mind through that. So I clearly recognize that with some of the people who kept themselves to Java, and then rest, of course, it took some time for them. So we, as I said, like we took one small requirement and then started working on it, on providing that in in the dashboard. So only a small part of the graph we wanted to first actually show that actually the team actually took it as an learning curve project, and then they started working on it. The sooner they started working on it, they started liking that, because the moment you start going through a stream of data and then you start actually subscribing to them and start going through the whole um, um, concept of reactive, so many new possibilities and ideas started to open up. So that's where actually that's the motivation actually they had to learning new languages, or new way of actually working with reactive Java. So it's more of a motivation which we were trying to find out, rather than pushing someone to learn something new, because of course our requirement is there for a streaming service on the server side, but it's more of a motivation to learn that is what actually made people to learn it.
Do you think like that's like switching to reactive approach like positively affect your way how you are writing the tests? I mean, generally speaking, like unit test, integration test, and so on. Because like from one way you are like switching from the way how you are working, and the question is like how this was like impacting the way how you are building the tests and maintaining them and so on. Like I personally have like experience that reactive helps a lot to like simplify most of the tests.
It does, actually. You are right, actually, but there was also a learning curve. There were some limitations in the testing side also, unit testing side. Probably like we tend to keep it like 80% coverage on our tests, so there were like little less than what it's supposed to be with reactive part of the web services or microservices. But we were okay with that, actually. All we want at the end of the day is to make it work end to end with less issues. So that's what we were aiming at initially, and then we started fine tuning that afterwards.
Do you think using Growl or Micronaut would get more out of than Java?
Kiran, I have no idea about both. Probably I'll have to speak with my team to find out what it
Yeah.
is.
Hi,
Yeah.
Venkatesh. Yeah, hi. So yeah, you were saying about Go and Java, right? I am a Java fan, so I just thought of putting this over here. So yeah, by any chance, if Graal or Micronaut or Quarkus anything used so that you can actually make your boot time increased or your memory optimization better, so actually you can save cost on it. So that's why I asked this question.
Oh, okay. So okay, I haven't actually come across them. So usually they are there for polyglot programming, isn't it?
Yes, they are into polyglot programming,
We
and they are
haven't.
more into
Yeah,
yeah. Please go.
we haven't reached into that level. So we're not like any other investment banks and go into full polyglot development. So we haven't looked at that yet. Probably if
Uh,
required, I think there are Granal is that an kind of an
Graal is actually a replace. Sorry, Venkatesh, it's overlapping. This. Graal is actually a replacement for the Oracle JDK, the right now.
okay.
It has actually it's like next version of it. It has its own optimized the compiler called
Okay.
HRTech actually. So it actually optimizes your code and makes it fast and even executes better. And also memory optimization not only will increase with it,
Amazing.
and also your boot time will increase. Maybe it might help for you guys also.
That's great. Really appreciate your um, suggestions, Kiran. So I'll pass it on to my team. So I've just quickly looked at Graal VM. So let's see like what they're actually saying on this.
Yeah,
Because, as I
it
said,
is a
like
wonder tool right now. It is a trend. Maybe
Okay.
help you.
Okay.
And also, Venkatesh, even I am from Milton Keynes. So yeah, hope so I meet you one day.
Nice. If the lockdown eases.
Yeah. After the lockdown, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Let's
Thanks,
see.
Venkatesh.
No worries. Thank you very much, Kiran. So there you go, Kiran. Like a lot of points on.
Yeah, actually, even I am looking at. Yeah, I can see. Actually, I can take a lot of things from here. Yeah, even people are saying more.
Yeah,
That's a learning for me also. Yeah, thanks very much.
exactly. Like those- in my past experience, we hit reactive as soon as we found out we have hit the maximum 200 thread in Tomcat. So that's that's what actually motivated us to move towards reactive. So which helped quite a lot actually. In couple of my banking projects before. So this, yeah.
One question about like because we are talking right now lots about like backend mostly, right? Like, but what about reactive programming on the front end, right? Like, so do you have like an experience of like pushing forward reactive together with React frameworks or any like SPA frameworks and like bind them to get like together and having fully reactive streams working from the backend to the front end? Fully.
So we're not pushing anything from the front end, but we are pulling it from the back end. So it's almost like one way of the stream. So we haven't considered that. We haven't had any requirement like that yet. So for that reason only we are using WebSockets. So
I see.
Any more questions? Okay, if we haven't got any more questions, then I would say thank you very much for a presentation, Venkat. I hope everyone found it useful and informative. And thank you very much, everyone, for showing up today. Is there anything else you want to add, Ines?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, again, thanks for a lovely evening and just in time for the Champions League football. So perfect timing. Probably, I think we've got our March one set up already. It will be roughly about middle of the month again. So you will all get messages to let you know what the talk is, and also once this recording has been edited, we will be able to send you a link. It's usually on YouTube, so yeah, do look up for that as well. But Venkata, thanks again. Yeah, it was amazing.
thanks, Ines. Actually, thanks, David, for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here, and speaking with so many people after 7. So like
Perfect. Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you.